Hello, everybody, and welcome to Strong Style Stories. I am Joel, bringing you the strong style. But who is going to bring We need stories. Who's bringing it? I tell you who. We've got someone who you think this is about coffee. Pillman's got a gun. Some people think he's a hermaphrodite. Others think he is the best wrestling announcer of the 2010s. It is with great honour and privilege that we introduce to you Kevin Kelly, Ichiban himself. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Thank you, Joel, for that lovely introduction. Yes, episode 1 of our brand new venture. I'm very excited here for Strong Style Stories.
Yeah, it is a mouthful. I'm really glad I don't have a lisp. It would have been an awful, awful rib on myself for doing that. But that was a great introduction, and I want everyone to know it's downhill from there. That's I've given it my best shot. I've given Kevin all of his accolades. Anything more than this would just be repetition. So back to normal service will resume from
Yeah, it's pretty
episode
much,
2.
that's pretty much it. Worked with The Rock, did some good stuff, announced some shows, was widely regarded as good, and now here we are.
To go over the stuff from when you were good, calling 6-star
Yes.
matches, Kevin. And also, we forget you are a Hall of Famer.
Where,
Retired Wrestlers Fund have
yes,
given you for all that great donations you gave
right.
over the years.
See, the Retired Wrestlers Fund is and should be a legitimate, it's a worthwhile charitable cause that Steve Carino thought up. So you're going to hear his name mentioned a whole lot. You're going to hear names of people that you're familiar with. You're also going to hear some names of people that you're not familiar with. But that's part of what these stories are about. Joel, I love your background. I think that is a beautiful thing.
It is the season, isn't it?
It is.
We try and keep these stuff evergreen. That's something that me and Kevin have talked about because these stories are evergreen. Because with the great New Japan World, we can go back and watch whenever we want a lot of these things. But for me, when you get into December and you're like, Christmas is coming up, what I do is I get my projector out and I watch. I get ready for some New Japan Pro Wrestling for Wrestle Kingdom, and it's coming up. And it happens at this place, the Tokyo Dome, and you've been there plenty of time, not just for the wrestling, but I believe baseball as well. So
yeah,
all the sports Kevin's done.
And I'll tell you a little thing. Of course, it's not so much anymore because cost cutting and all these things have gone through New Japan over the last couple of years. We no longer stay at the Tokyo Dome Hotel. But the view that you see behind Joel is standing on the ground with the Tokyo Dome directly behind you. Okay. Tokyo Dome Hotel is directly behind you. And however high up you are on the even numbered rooms, will give you that viewpoint. So this here would be, equal to about floor number 2 on the Tokyo Dome Hotel view. The higher you go, the better. And you can tell, of course, with the roller coaster in the background, all part of Tokyo Dome City, which is adjacent to, of course, the Tokyo Dome. And the Tokyo Dome Hotel is a part of it, all in the Bunkyo district. And there's a lot of good shops and a lot of good eats all around there. We'll talk about, I'm sure we're going to talk about Don Quixote. We're going to talk about Caesarea. We're going to talk about all of the frequent haunts that me and the boys went throughout the years. And a lot of times me by myself because I had no friends. No, I'm just kidding.
That reminds me of the you were in a Starbucks and you were the first person in there. Good to see you and all your friends, Kevin.
It was in downstairs in front of the, let's see. So Tokyo Dome City has some buildings on this side of it with the dome in the middle and then on the opposite side. And facing on the street, there was a Starbucks right out in front of the Tokyo Dome Hotel. So the boys would all go there and get their coffees or whatever. And I would usually, like me and Carino started doing it, we would go eat breakfast and then go get a coffee, sit outside and rebook the territory, as we said. So yeah, that was it. In fact, that Starbucks. We're going to talk about Ring of Honor today because Ring of Honor is where the relationship with New Japan and eventually the relationship with English commentary and New Japan World all got started. We're going to take you back to 2014. But it was at that Starbucks that Steve and I were tasked with coming up with a main event that was worthy of the, I can't remember the event, but it was the one that was in cooperation with WrestleMania. And because they were running WrestleMania in Orlando, no venue's good enough for Ring of Honor, so we moved to Lakeland. Well, that's 70 miles away. How are you going to make people drive 70 miles? You better have a damn good main event. So we'll put a pin in that story, and when it's time, we'll tell that story about how Steve and I came up with the main event for that very special event.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I do love my favorite commentary team, and it's no offense to all the lovely people that you've worked with. It was you and Carino, and that is non-biased because Carino has wanted me dead from the famous tweet.
Yes.
Getting heat brother on this poor defenseless British boy at the time. But
Steve Carino was a man who in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, told people to have a few drinks and drive home. I mean, he's not a nice person. He's a bad friend, but he's a hell of a commentator. And boy, did he know exactly what was going on in Japan and really helped us out when it came time to developing relationships with New Japan, what we needed to do, who we needed to talk to, and the importance of each person in their respective position. But it all started kind of, Joel, with a clandestine meeting.
I know every time you've referred to it, it's the clandestine meeting, and I've always like we did a pilot. I did a lot of prep. I pride myself on doing prep work because I'm an idiot. I forget things even though I lived through it and saw it, and really my memory's awful. So I'm trying to like relive a lot of those things, but this I can't do. No one was there. There was
no one.
Four people, Kevin.
There were four people, and this is the first time that this meeting has ever been reported. I mean, the only person that ever spoke about this meeting was me, because I was there, and it led to so much. So let me set the stage. Ring of Honor is now controlled at this time in early 2014. So we've wrapped up Final Battle and we're turning the calendar for a new year. And we've got a lot of good things going on, but of course, we could use some more good things. And we had a tremendous talent roster, which could only be supplanted by a few different companies. Again, 2014, you had WWE. They were not interested in working with Ring of Honor. You had TNA, who kind of, sort of, maybe, possibly would be interested in working with Ring of Honor, but there were a lot of hoops because everybody was on television. And all three companies are controlled by corporations. Corporations have lawyers, and lawyers slow down the works. It's not like the old days where you could just go and sit down and have dinner with somebody and come up with a plan and shake hands. That was when I got a text message and a call from Delirious, from Hunter Johnston. And this was probably the third week of January in 2014. And I'm assuming that our meeting would eventually take place around the 22nd or sometime in that vicinity. And because I don't have the date written down, but I do know that it was a Thursday. Okay.
You probably did have the date written down, Kevin, but you then had to burn it because it was clandestine.
This was so okay. So what was this meeting about? Hunter Johnston tells me that New Japan Pro Wrestling wants to meet with us. Rocky Romero messaged Delirious and said they would like to meet with us to discuss working together with Ring of Honor and seeing if we could come up with some different ways to exchange talent, to do some things differently. Well, this is pretty exciting. And immediately the wheels start turning because during this time, a lot of our talent was already going over to New Japan, but there wasn't that reciprocal coming back to Ring of Honor. How cool would it be to have Tanahashi, to have Shinsuke Nakamura, to have Kazuchika Okada, to have Jushin Thunder Liger, to have Ishii, Goto, whoever, to have those wrestlers come over and appear on Ring of Honor cards? Are you kidding me? Now, at the time, New Japan Pro Wrestling had a partnership and still does with CMLL in Mexico. So then we immediately said, well, this would mean we could probably get some CMLL wrestlers on our shows as well. But to be determined, let's take it one step at a time. Obviously, Hunter and I were really excited. Where was this meeting going to take place? In the center of it all, Joel, in New York City. And, of course, the other representative with Rocky, the other representative for New Japan was Tiger Hattori.
So can I just say, for this episode, I ordered a Tiger Hattori t-shirt, and what I would have done is undo my zip to reveal it. But the person that ruined that moment, Kevin, is Andy Quilden at Shop Rev Pro.
Come on. That's not fair.
It is very fair. I ordered in good time.
Yeah.
And it has not arrived. Shout out to Andrew. You're a lovely fella, probably.
We love Andy Quilden.
He is one of the greatest people that are okay.
Quilden's name is going to be mentioned quite a bit during these run of shows because obviously Rev Pro was a big part of what we all did with Ring of Honor and with New Japan Pro Wrestling. But listen, it's not like Quilden is down there in the shop pressing the shirts. He's ordering them from someone else. He's the middleman.
No, he's pressing the shirts. That's why I bought them. I need to think he's. I want to see his hands getting dirty. I want to know it's hurt him. And actually, I did message him saying, "You've got some of my money. Congratulations." And he said, "What was it? It wasn't the DVD sale, was it?" I was like, "Actually, it was. I did buy quite a few of those DVDs." And he went, "Oh God, I wish I hadn't have done them. I have to pack them by hand." And that gave me the greatest satisfaction known to man. But I am gonna. The Tiger Hattori t-shirt will appear at some point. This would have been the perfect time because he will come up a lot, but this is the one where he really shines. I'm guessing because he was that go-between.
Yes,
and it's someone that is actually really respected. From what I understand from everything from Chris Charlton's book, a lot, just Lion's Pride, not A Lion's Pride.
Yes, Lion's Pride, available on Amazon and a must order. And in fact, what we should do, Joel, if we can, let's put a link in the description for this so people can go and order this. To order
Absolutely.
This book. It's a great accompaniment to everything that we will be talking about, and then all of your viewership of New Japan Pro Wrestling on NJPWWorld.com. And we should also put a link to subscribe to NJPWWorld.com on the assumption that a lot of people that are listening to this may be a little lapsed. Maybe they've given up on it or moved on because some of their favorites aren't there. But what we're going to talk about, obviously, is that there is tremendous value in being able to relive the history. Even if you don't like the current product, that's okay. That's your opinion. But boy, oh boy, wouldn't it be nice to be able to press play and watch the great matches from the past that we're going to be talking about here? So, yes, I think everybody should resubscribe and order Lion's Pride just to have it as accompaniment as we go through these shows.
I got it twice. I've got the book, and I took it on holiday with me, as I always do, because normally when I go on holiday, it's a G1, and I like having it with me in case I want to flip back and have a little look. And I can't find it, so I've told my family how disrespectful it is. This is the only thing that I like in my life is pro wrestling, but I bought the ebook as well. So he got my money twice. Well, 3 times if you include eggshells. So
that's fine.
I'm absolutely delighted.
Eggshells. You can include eggshells as well because it's the history of the Tokyo Dome and all the wrestling in Tokyo Dome that used to be called the Egg Dome. And of course, many companies have run events there. And it's a beautiful coffee table book, as you've described, Joel. And of course, if you would like to get that as well, you can order that one. But for our purposes here, we're going to talk mainly about what's been going on in New Japan Pro Wrestling as we've
So you were
begun. We've
there.
just started our journey, and again, this all started with this meeting that took place with Rocky Romero and Tiger Hattori. And as Joel said, yes, we will talk a lot about Tiger Hattori. You're going to hear his name frequently mentioned because for years and up until a year or two ago, Tiger was the liaison. Tiger was the liaison for all foreign talent. He knew he had the lawyer all set up to do the visas because when you go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, you work there, they have to have a work visa for you. And depending on the political climate of the time or the calendar, whatever's going on, sometimes it's the value of the yen. As it gets less expensive, more expensive, and companies are bringing workers over. I'm not talking about wrestling, but to get a work visa, sometimes it can happen quickly, sometimes it takes a while. But Tiger knew all of the ins and outs and was the man when it came to helping the foreign wrestlers, the U.S. wrestlers come over to Japan, get settled in, have somebody to talk to and relate to, and a lot of times referee your matches when you were on the various tours. So I could do hours and hours just on Hattori, and in fact, we probably will at some point, just a Tiger Hattori special. But that his relationship with New Japan goes back to before he was a wrestler while he was in college because he was college mates with Masa Saito.
Whoa.
And they both wrestled on the amateur team at the college that they were at. Saito was a senior and Hattori was a freshman. So Saito leaves, goes to America, starts pro wrestling, or goes to New Japan, starts pro wrestling, eventually to head over to the United States. And when Hattori got done, he stayed in amateur wrestling when he graduated, and he became a coach and was a coach, a very high level coach of amateur wrestling, which then opened the door through Masa Saito into pro wrestling. And like I said, we'll talk about that another time. But just a fascinating man who's lived so many lives. And I've begged and pleaded with him to write a book. Please, oh please, I beg you, can you imagine what it was like to be a Japanese man in Louisiana when he was a manager for Bill Watts? Could you
Yeah.
imagine what that must have been like? Talk about culture shock, talk about racism, talk about all the things that he faced. And it's like, what am I doing here? This is like another world. If you grew up in the South, or if you grew up in America, certain ethnicities and certain backgrounds, of course, if you're a black man, you know exactly what it's like to deal with racism because you've dealt with it before. And in Japan, the only people that are racist against Japanese are the Koreans because the Koreans and the Japanese hate each other. But anyway, so what it must have been like for Hattori, and that's just one little chapter of his story, and it is a fascinating journey. But yeah, so this meeting, where are we going to meet, Joel? And I said to Hunter, where are we going to meet? And he said, we're going to meet at Tiger Hattori's son's restaurant in
Smart
Manhattan.
guy. Keep the money in the family.
That's right. Now, Tiger Hattori has two children. One girl is a successful banker on Wall Street. She is top notch and does a lot of different stuff. His son was in the restaurant industry for a long time and now has transitioned out of that and works with, basically owns a contracting business and does a lot of electrical and plumbing and things like that. So I don't know if he's twisting the wires and running the cables, but he's the one who's collecting the checks when the job is done. So both of his kids have made great for themselves. He's got grandchildren, does Hattori. They're beautiful. His wife is beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. I love them. The whole family. They're incredible.
And they will come up a lot because there'll be an episode where we just have to talk about referees and their driving habits. Think I think Kevin's if you've ever listened to Kevin's non Road 2 commentaries, they're very much we were up a mountain and it was absolutely dreadful because X referee was driving.
Well,
We
and
will
that's
name
one
no
of the
names.
yeah, that's one of the questions that people will ask. How do you get around from town to town in Japan? In the United States, of course, we'll fly and then rent cars, but it's very difficult. You can rent a car in Japan. You can get a driver's permit in Japan. You can drive. It's okay. But the steering wheel is opposite to where it normally is for us. It's comfortable for you, Joel, as a, right side of the car driver. And those of us from the West, we drive on the left side. So it's very awkward. And having that steering wheel be on the opposite side makes it difficult to at least feel comfortable driving. But the way that the talent was brought all around the country was via bus. And bus and public transport is very, very common in Japan, and certainly much more common than it is in the United States. If you live in a city, if you major metropolitan area, of course, they'll have trains, they'll have subways and buses. But most of America, we'll use a taxi every once in a while. We'll do a ride share, but it's in terms of public transport, is not a whole lot. So yeah, it was very much a culture shock kind of thing. How are we going to get around in a foreign country where we don't know how to get there? We don't know the names of the roads. And we can't rent a car because I don't feel comfortable driving with the steering wheel on the opposite side. But thank God they had these buses, and thank God they were able to bring us around. But we could get to Manhattan. We could. We definitely
You could
could.
train, bus, there's everywhere. The two airports.
We
Ooh.
drove. Risky. I know. Both of us lived in Pennsylvania. I think Hunter still does live in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. Anyway, I went and met him. We jumped in his car and we drove into Manhattan. And of course, we get stuck heading into the tunnel, which if anybody's ever driven into New York, you know immediately what I'm talking about. That's like my big fear was we're not going to make this meeting because something's going to happen and it's going to prevent us from being able to get there. I knew the value of this. Hunter did. Both of us were nervous. We were anxious. We were excited because this was New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we knew the value of this company. We knew a little bit, certainly the history of the company. We knew its place in the wrestling world. And we also knew where Ring of Honor was. And what a boost this relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling could mean for Ring of Honor.
Were you guys aware of what New Japan had done for Rev Pro? Because Rev Pro had my first York Hall show. I was there to watch Tanahashi, and Bret Hart was there, happened to be there as well. But that was 2012, 2013, and there was a Carter in 2014. Just wondering whether that was one of the reasons why you knew what the value could be, because there wasn't there was a partnership, but it was very much a sort of going through a booking agent. Whereas this feels a little bit. If you're having a meeting with Tiger in his son's restaurant in the middle of Manhattan, it does feel like it's going to be slightly bigger than we need you to book Ishii for 3 shows. It feels a little bit more.
Yeah, I think what we were looking at was, I was thinking of it more in terms of like, because they had a relationship with Bruce Tharpe and the NWA.
Yeah.
And that there was a New Japan presence in NWA events. There was NWA presence on New Japan events. My mind immediately went toward, could they be looking at Ring of Honor as a place to put young lions when they go on excursion? Because I knew that was something that we could offer, because we certainly had enough events along with others. Plus we had Sumi Sakai, who lived in America. She lived in New Jersey. And I knew that, of course, she had a great relationship. Her and her husband Dave had a great relationship with the New Japan office, and that was where some talent had been before. Fale had gone to the Midwest. He had done like the St. Louis thing, but didn't like it. It wasn't his thing. So he left America pretty quickly. But that was kind of where I thought things were going to go. And Hunter was very open minded. We were talking a lot about, the possibilities of where this could be, and what we could be looking at. Him as the booker, I'm sure he was thinking about the matches, and he was thinking about, oh, I could put so and so against so and so, and we could have this one against that one. Imagine the tags, imagine the Briscoes, imagine we could do all these different things. And of course, both of us knew that it was going to be box office. There was no doubt it was just going to be huge, because we knew at the time, because the boys were coming back and telling us that New Japan was drawing well, that business was good, and that they had an incredible roster of talent that if they came to America, oh my goodness, so that's where we were at. So the first thing that we did, we parked the car and we go up to Hattori's apartment, and we meet. Beautiful little place, nice apartment. Can you imagine its value? He bought it back in the 80s, and now it's worth millions.
Whoa.
And yeah, so it's Lower Manhattan, down, I think in the 20s, like 4th Avenue, something like that. But anyway,
Okay.
very nice.
I stayed at the UN Plaza, so that's sort of like the other side, but I definitely did the walks up that way, and oh boy, he's done.
And so here we are now. We walk just a few blocks over to a very small restaurant, and we go inside and we meet Hattori's son, who instantly would tell it's his son, boy, he looks just like him. And shake hands, sit down, dinner, and the conversation begins. And it was, Joel, it was exactly what we thought, what we had hoped that it was going to be, that New Japan Pro Wrestling wanted to work with Ring of Honor as an opportunity to bring some of their wrestlers over to the United States and to have a more formal arrangement, so that our wrestlers from Ring of Honor could appear on New Japan events and be figured in. Because again, you could always have somebody come over and, I got a few dates over in Japan with New Japan. Okay, great. So we won't book you here. But we weren't going out of our way to make sure that our stories and their stories meshed, because it wasn't anything that we needed to worry about. It would just be, well, we're not going to book the Young Bucks. They won't be on this next house show loop because they're going to be in Japan. Okay, great. But this now was going to kind of make it formal. And, so here we were in January of 2014, on the cusp of everything. The meeting was great. Dinner was great. The conversation was fun. It wasn't one of these all night drinking fests, that we had gone to. It was just a very nice casual dinner. This dinner with, of course, we knew Rocky really well. We loved Rocky. We had booked him. Everybody knows Rocky Romero. And again, as we talk about the influence, the power that Tiger Hattori has, as he has, of course, a couple of years ago, getting older and wanting to spend more time with his grandchildren at home, handing off some of those responsibilities to Rocky. And we knew that this was where the relationship was changing. And Tiger even said it, I'm too old, man. I don't want to do this anymore. And that was where Rocky was going to be jumping in and be that liaison between the American wrestlers and the New Japan office. So it was exciting. We didn't talk anything about commentary yet. We didn't talk about anything with English commentary coming over to New Japan. We didn't talk about it here at this meeting, but it would soon follow.
Because the interesting thing about that would be not knowing what Jim Ross's deal was. There's obviously pay-per-view. They flirted with English commentary. There were lots of different things seemingly happening where New Japan had suddenly gone, we're going to New Japan World. We're actually going to have a service. We're actually going to try and reach an English audience rather than they have to sort of seek it out. So there was change happening. But you said Rocky. Rocky's been an incredibly important part of your career in the fact that you've intertwined so much that when did you first meet Rocky? I'm assuming Ring of Honor, but
I met Rocky. We did Lucha Libre USA.
Yeah, MTV2.
Yes, we did that. I think that may have been the first time I worked with him. We never booked him. I didn't have him as an extra, because he was too young. WWE, he was
He
already
would have been in
involved.
the dojo. Yeah, he would
He
have
was
been at the
already
LA dojo. Yeah.
yeah, he was just in the dojo system. Um he didn't spend a lot of time on the indies, but like he came up from that similar crowd. So if he would have been around, probably we would have, I'm sure, when WWE events were in Southern California, I'm sure we would have had him as an extra. But again, we knew Rocky well. It was great meeting Hattori. Knowing who he was. Little sidebar: during the week leading up to the meeting, I had been sick. Like,
No.
yeah, it wasn't. My stomach was sick. It wasn't nerves or anything like that. I had gotten a little stomach bug, and so I was down for the count for a couple of days. And I was just praying that I was going to be able to get through this meeting. I did have to step away one time, but everything was okay. And I was able to eat, and it was like the first meal that I had eaten. So I kind of like scarfed it down. So
But
good.
you know what they were saying when you went away? They would have gone, man, that Kevin Kelly's lost a lot of weight, hasn't he?
Hey, he looks great.
Oh,
Fantastic.
amazing. Yeah.
Nothing helps, Joel, quite like some lower gastrointestinal discomfort with making sure that you look your best for important
Preach.
meetings, broadcast opportunities, whatever. But so the meeting was just fantastic, and our wheels are turning as we're driving back into Pennsylvania, and both, Hunter's like, I'm going to write up a big email and a big, thing, and we're going to send it to Joe and Greg, Joe Koff, Greg, I can't, Gilliland. They were the two main, they were our bosses with Ring of Honor, with Sinclair Broadcasting. So we had to kind of go everything through them. And Hunter did that. Next day or so, email goes out, big report about the meeting and where we are. And they knew about the meeting ahead of time. So it wasn't like a big surprise. And it was, okay, now what are the next steps? Well, the next steps are, let's identify where we're going to have these events. And we kind of we brought our book with us. So we're looking at, obviously, our big May events, Global Wars and things like that. It just fit with what we were doing. And the original concept for Global Wars is that these were shows, Cornette, I think it was Cornette that had come up with the name, but that it was going to be in Canada. And so there was going to be an international flavor. We had Global Wars for at least 1 year, maybe two. But as we're gearing up towards 2014, we're looking for more and bigger things, knowing that we're going to be doing Global Wars, Border Wars, etc. And there's going to be events in Canada. There's going to be events in America. So it was very exciting, as they say.
Well, it's yeah, all go. And I've actually been to a Global Wars show. I went to the Rev Pro series.
Yes, you did.
Which I think is what
2018, right?
I think there was one before that. It was the one where Okada actually wrestled, where he actually met and wrestled Ospreay.
That was 2016.
Yeah, so that was the one that I would have gone to, because my kids would have got older and I would have been more on a tighter leash, as you guys say. Can you hear my dog in the background?
I can. I wondered what that was.
That
But
was
I think it's great.
Yeah. That is so just so Strong Soul Stories is we are open to other pets, but we are predominantly a dog podcast. Kevin has a couple of King Charles
I've got
Spaniels.
I've got a big brown chocolate lab
Yes.
slash German Shepherd, and I have two Cavalier King Charles Spaniels and one cat. So we've got a house full.
You got a house full of them. I've got it's the one that you guys can hear. He's 11-year-old Logan who is going through it at the moment because we've got another dog called Melody who's a frog, which is a French bulldog pug. Um, and yeah, she's giving this old man some hell. So if you do hear dogs in the background, we do apologise, but screw yourself. This is Strong Soul Stories. Kevin was away from those dogs. Well, two of them. The third one, the Kevin Kelly bat signal went up and said, "We need someone that can." And you flew across part of the world to rescue this puppy, which is a great story. And hopefully we can tell these stories throughout the podcast and some of the extra things we're planning on doing.
I think that's kind of, like where we were in our lives is part of the listen in this, because
Yes.
everybody who was part of the community, all the fans that came on board to New Japan World, that became subscribers, that became regular part of our audience, watching the events, foregoing sleep and staying up all night or taking a nap afterward, whatever it would be, and then flocking, traveling when the events would come to America. It was, all of them became like extensions of our family. You are a part of that as well, because, I have relationships with you and with Andy Boy Simmons and Quilden, to a lesser extent, but with you two primarily as a direct result of our involvement with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So
And
we can thank that.
yeah, thank you so much, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I really appreciate that. That's British sarcasm, Kevin. Did you enjoy that?
I know. I was feeling it.
You Americans can't do sarcasm because
No.
Every time you speak to an American, you just naturally assume they're being sarcastic. So
Yes.
that's why we think you're hilarious, but you're actually being sincere, and we don't really do insincerity. Having said that, I think you have had a brilliant career, Kevin, and you're an absolutely wonderful announcer. So you can't do insincerity; it's impossible.
You can't. I know. So anyway, as we were saying, now the wheels are turning, and we're trying to figure out what the next step forward would be. Little did we know that there was enormous, I don't want to say enormous, there was a surprising level of disinterest from Joe Koff about this.
So sort of the boss, the Sinclair bosses. So I was going to say it must have been a case of who's going to put the foot forward first, and Sinclair have to. I assume that there's no money involved or anything. It's more of a contract thing.
It wasn't it really wasn't even a contract. The issue that, and again, Joe Koff, God rest his soul, Joe Koff was the driving force between Sinclair Broadcasting's purchase of Ring of Honor from Kerry Silkin. Jim Cornette and his relationship with Gary Juster, his friendship, his relationship with Joe Koff, that was the bridge to bring Ring of Honor and Sinclair together. When Joe Koff sold this to Sinclair, he met with the different departments and explained what this would be. Sinclair Broadcasting does not produce its own programming, at least didn't then. They bought programming. They bought syndication. They didn't own anything other than the stations themselves. Think of it like in terms of they weren't necessarily like an ABC or, MTV. They weren't a broadcasting network. They were much more like a real estate company. They owned the buildings. They owned the stations. But the stations programmed themselves. They were all independently owned. There wasn't a network affiliation. They were just local TV stations. We learned the hard way that what Cornette thought Sinclair was different than what Sinclair really was. Cornette saw it as syndication, but they didn't syndicate programming. They just bought syndicated programming and aired it. And that one of the numbers that we heard originally is that by Sinclair purchasing Ring of Honor, that they were going to save approximately $8 million a year in programming fees. They didn't have to buy a half an hour sitcom. You don't have to buy an episode of King of Queens or 2 episodes, let's say, because you own the hour-long wrestling program that's going to be in that space.
And you own its reruns as well.
Sure.
So
they owned everything about
it.
The
great thing about this is you've got not only the great Kevin Kelly, who I actually work in that field, so we can kind of give a bit of an insight into TV and stuff like that. And from what I gather with Sinclair, it's very much they found out a way of getting a huge amount of cheap programming without having to pay royalties and rights fees, and it costs money sending a check out every quarter for those royalties, and they effectively didn't have to do that anymore. It's very smart, but it doesn't. They weren't necessarily future proofing themselves, were they? They were very much riding a wave.
Well, and it was where the industry was at the time. Of course, over, and again, this was back in 2012. 13 plus years ago. Think about everything that's changed.
HDNet.
HDNet was a part of the conversation because of the relationship that Kerry Silken had with HDNet in airing Ring of Honor episodes. Basically, Kerry was paid for those episodes. They would come in. HDNet brought their production crew in, and all Ring of Honor did was provide the talent, put on a show, and HDNet records it and airs it on their channel. What HDNet wanted is the same thing that Joe Koff wanted. They wanted the live event experience. They wanted to be able to bring the live event, because they both said, separately from each other, there is nothing like a Ring of Honor live event. The crowds, the chanting, the banging of the barricades, the sound. There was nothing like it. And that's what they wanted to bring to the television audience. But that doesn't necessarily work when you're wanting to utilize television to build episodic programming in order to help boost attendance for your live events. And that's not the way the television was set up. Television in New Japan is set up much more like what HDNet and Ring of Honor wanted, ironically enough. HDNet wanted sport. Ring of Honor just wanted coverage of the event, so to speak. Well, that's exactly what TVSI does. They air all the shows live, and it's just like they do baseball. It's just like they do everything else. You're there, you're in the building, you're experiencing it live.
And they own a piece, and they don't own it all. And
No.
I think that's where the big difference between sort of Sinclair was, because they threw it all in. They went, we'll have all of it. And with that, that's great, but it does have its downsides as well.
Yes, it does. Because again, there's the push and pull with creative. There's, in the old days, they would say, well, we're never going to air our main events on TV because we don't want to give away the main events. That's what people pay to see. Plus, but now in this era, what Ring of Honor was still looking at was DVD sales, because they were a thing. There was in its infancy, internet streaming. We want to try to find all these different revenue streams to bring in more money. So HDNet was very, very willing and able to work with Ring of Honor, and they bent over backwards to try to make it all work, and I think they did. Eventually, when the company was sold, it wasn't any acrimony at all, Joel. It was just, hey, good for you guys. Congratulations. Sinclair is going to be a fantastic owner for you. Good luck. And if there's ever anything that we could do, let us know. So at the same time now, HDNet, rebranded as Access, starts airing New Japan programming. Had nothing to do with our meeting, had nothing to do with anything else. It was about 6 months in the past, though. So about a 6-month lag. They redid English commentary. They had JR. They had Josh Barnett. Before that, before it was JR, it was Mauro Ranallo and Josh Barnett. And then when and it continued on, and we got to see just a lot of cool stuff. We got to see kind of earlier matches of Okada. We got to see where things were going on, because they would feature an opening match. And it was the World Pro Wrestling Television show, by the way. That's what aired on Access with English commentary. The same television show that the fans got in Japan is what aired on Access TV, just with American commentary.
And the interviews with the translations as well. That was the big thing, is the fact that I think people take it for granted because they've got Chris on commentary now, who's just there just to listen and commentate and then translate at the same time, and that's
Brilliant.
not easy. But for me, you would try and get hold of the Access TV stuff, because you would then know what is being said by Tanahashi was being asked about Okada and Nakamura and how much bigger they were than him, and he was like, I'm just a big little guy, and you were like, you got the humbleness over that you wouldn't necessarily have got just listening to the English audience. And I think that just shows that if you do good episodic TV, if you can present it to the audience you're presenting it to, it works. And I think we'll talk about the Walter Pyramid and Strong Style Evolved and stuff that happened on the back of it. But effectively, it potentially, all this doesn't happen without this Sinclair Ring of Honor New Japan deal.
Exactly. So to get back to the Sinclair affectation, if you will, their slant on the wrestling business, what they thought this was, again, live event coverage, very low cost. This is just simply cheap programming. And they don't have to write invoices. There's not going to be a lot of invoices. They went department by department. And, because everybody's like, well, how is this going to affect my workflow?
Yeah, imagine.
That's what they wanted to know. And Joe met with department by department and explained it to them, that this is really just like, it's a no-brainer for Sinclair to own this type of thing. We're going to save all this money by doing it, and it's not really going to affect you in any way. And that was what was told to the staff and at the corporate headquarters in Baltimore. That was what was told to the TV stations, the individual stations out along the way that were going to receive this program. They just needed to set up satellite time. What time are we going to receive the show? And that meant we had to finish our edit by this. It had to be posted. It had to be ready to send out via satellite by this time each week. And I'm not sure if it was, I don't think it was one satellite feed. It may have been a couple. But again, all of those details were fairly minor, because it's not like it used to be where you'd mail a tape, you'd put tapes on the bus and on a Greyhound bus, and it would be shuttled that way. This before FedEx, before any of that. Now it could all be done by satellite, and that obviously was the way to go. Again, inexpensive programming. We just needed to find a way to get it to the stations. Stations air it. Everybody wins. That's not what Cornette thought it was going to be. Cornette thought it was going to be syndication. We could customize. We could do customized interviews for markets. We could do all of these different things. And it was, no, we can't do any of that. That's what we heard a lot from Ring of Honor, Joel. We heard a lot of no. We can't do that. And I'm going to shock a lot of people. I'm going to surprise you and everyone. The company that routinely said no to all the ideas that we had, we the creative, we the people who were wanting to do good business with Ring of Honor and knew exactly what needed to be. When we brought the New Japan relationship to them, guess what they said? No.
Well, no.
They said no. Joe Koff said, why would we do that? Why would we take away spots from our guys? Why would we introduce a bunch of new people that nobody knows? What's the value? What's in it for us? Joe Koff said. And I about did American television back in the 70s, Sanford and Son, Joel. I did the Fred Sanford, clutching my chest. Like I was ready to fall over. And the meeting, I'll never forget it. And I looked today just to make sure. It was at the 12th anniversary event for Ring of Honor at the Pennsylvania National Guard Armory in Philadelphia. That was where we talked to Joe about this. And Joe said, not really for us. We'll pass. So clandestine meeting, handshakes, beautiful dinner. Kevin only had to get up once to go to the bathroom. It was great. It was wonderful. Rocky, Hattori. It was a love fest. We would have done it right there on the table, all four of us, until Daddy Joe said no. And now what are we going to do?
Spoiler alert, audience, dear listener. It did eventually happen.
Of course it happened.
It happened, but when you get told no after everyone involved going, this is a great. There's always that killjoy that for me it's my dad. Like he'll phone you up, hey, how's it going, and we'll talk about the Arsenal, and he'll tell me how it's just not running anymore. It's like there will be that sort of Eeyore figure.
We always have that. We always have that person in our lives, right? The killjoy. The Debbie Downer, if you will.
Yes.
Who's going to drag us down? We're riding high. We're feeling good, Joel. We're talking about the Arsenal, and it's not like it used to be back in the old days when so and so was there, right? We heard that. By the way, I want to thank you because one of the benefits of our friendship is that I have become much more in tune with Premier League soccer.
Football, yes.
With football, Premier League football. And I too, like you, because, I don't have any rooting interest. I didn't have any rooting interest. And I'm like, well, who are you a fan of, Joel? And Joel, of course, is a fan of?
The Arsenal. And a little tidbit, when Kevin would get the Wrestling Observer newsletter awards through, I would send some kind of award associated with his final position. There was a number one. There were several runner-up prizes, as Kevin's trophy cabinet says. There you go.
Yes,
that's number two. That one is for the YouTube audience. Strong Style Stories on YouTube.
Yes.
We'll go through all of the illustrious awards that Kevin has won through the years. But when he finished third, I did get Kelly number 3 on what was an unfairly tight Arsenal shirt.
I have it in my closet, of course. When you're talking about sport wear, the athletic jerseys of today, they're all built very close fitting. They're that dry fit fabric, and they're amazingly small. So if you get a 2X, it doesn't exactly fit like a 2X. It was more like a medium that I'm trying to squeeze my fat into, and it was embarrassing. But I did get it on long enough for the picture.
You did, did. Which is I think I had to sign that away that it would never see the light of day. I did sign that.
Here's a little and a little sidebar too about clothing in Japan, and something that fans may not realize, people may not realize, that the sizes in Japan are a little different than sizes anywhere else. You do have small, medium, and large, but all of those are a little bit smaller than their foreign counterparts. Now, in America, an American large is what it is, but a Japanese large is more like a medium.
Yes,
So everything is kind of one size down.
we've got on a lot of our over in the UK on a lot of our like where they'll have especially on like boxer shorts and stuff, they will have Asia, US, and UK, and we have
Yes.
them on our trainers, or let me translate, sneakers,
Yes.
if you will.
Well, I always wondered why there were three different sizes on the tongue of my shoe, and I would see the different numbers, and I had to familiarize myself in Japan to buy shoes, because shoes were the biggest difference in size. Basically, it was the centimeters of your foot is the
Yeah,
measurement.
something like that.
Yeah.
So over here, the Asia one is gone, and it's the EU. So we have an EU number, we have the US number, and we have the UK number. And the UK and the US one is slightly different. It's normally one size out. The EU one is, if you're a size 12, you're like a size 44.
Yes.
Just these mean nothing, but in Asia and Japan in particular, it is very much like this is what we call this sizing because this is the size of the average medium man, or this is the
Yes.
yeah.
And oh, by the way, the size of the average Japanese man is a little bit smaller than the size of the average fat ass American man. Okay. And it was through my travels in Japan, Joel, that I realized that my eating habits were atrocious, and that the American food industrial complex had done a great disservice to Americans, because here we are, we're all much bigger and we're fatter and we don't live as long, and we can't wear shirts in Japan like normal people. So here in America, I'm a 2X. 2X, very comfortable for me. I like having the shirt that's a little bigger, but a 2X in Japan is more like an extra large. So I can wear it, but it just doesn't look great and it doesn't feel great. I'd much rather have something a little more room. Well, guess what? They don't make bigger than 2X. That's like an odd size. It's called a 3L. 3L is the Japanese equivalent of 2X in America. And oh boy, it's frustrating. If you go to a New Japan event, let's say you're sitting in Korakuen Hall and you want to go buy a shirt from your favorite wrestler, you can do that. They've got them all right there. But they do not have the American sizes. They don't carry 3L. You have to have those specially made. I was wearing the same shirts that Nakanishi was wearing. How about that?
Ooh.
Yeah. Manabu Nakanishi, a mountain of a man, and huge, wore a 3L. And
I'm
here
surprised
I am.
I'm surprised that fit him. He's big shoulders,
But he
massive shoulders.
wanted it, but he looked tight in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was clingy to his muscles. And I wanted something that was bigger and more roomy. So I had to wear a 3L. So if you're buying stuff from the Tokan shop, if you're ordering things from Japan, sizing guides, just remember, in Japan, everything is one size smaller, and even the size that you want it's not 1-to-1. Your 2X in America is the 3L in Japan. 3L is not the same as the nice roomy 2X in America. It's still a little closer to, the one size down. But yeah, it was always weird.
I wouldn't know because when you do have a best friend that's working in Japan and maybe could send you some merch and doesn't. His monitor's gone out. Oh, it's like a.
Hold on, I can't hear it.
No.
What? What's going on?
So
say something, Joel.
Okay, I'm going to say something. You owe me a fantastic piece of. Oh no, it's still gone.
Can't hear it. I'm
Okay,
looking
so
at
this
my producer over
clandestine
there.
meeting. Yeah, so this clandestine meeting.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm
Thank
back,
you.
am I?
Thank goodness. Okay, so Daddy Joe says no. Daddy Joe says no.
He said no. The
Not
opposite of
interested.
what Daniel Bryan wanted you to say.
And we said, wait a minute. My first instinct, Joel, was to just curse him out because I had done a sizable amount of research between our, the booking of the meeting, the meeting's execution, and now the follow-up. And I hadn't had a chance to see Joe because the meeting had happened like 2 weeks prior. So this is like the 12th of February. And I'm like, wait, what? You wouldn't? And so immediately I went into the finances. So, Joe, you realize that New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to fly their wrestlers over. It's not going to cost Ring of Honor a dime. You know that, right? Well, it's just going to take spots from our guys. Joe, this will give an opportunity for our guys to, and this was Hunter, this will give our guys an opportunity to kind of rub elbows with their big stars. Our big stars will look like bigger stars because they'll be next to their New Japan counterparts. Yeah, but who's New Japan to the American audience? What do they know? Who are they? Okay, we're just going to take this really slowly, and we're going to keep on because we're not having this conversation right now. I'm saying all of this in my head. I need to get away from you, Joe, before I scream because you are blowing it. This was not the only time that I ever had this thought in my head of wanting to get away from Joe and or Greg screaming and yelling. Okay? So the first clandestine meeting couldn't have gone any better, but our perception of what Joe and or Greg were going to say, not so good. Not so good.
What were you thinking beforehand? Did you think that, okay, we've had issues with Joe and Greg before, they're a little bit reluctant,
Yeah,
but this
they're
they have to
short-sighted.
know.
They don't understand the wrestling
But they
business.
have to know. They have to
Yeah,
know that this is a good thing.
and
Only an idiot would think this is a bad thing.
only an idiot would say no. Again, if we being the wrestling people, which is what Joe constantly said, well, you guys are the wrestling people, right? We're the subject matter experts, and we're telling you this is a good deal. Don't you think you should listen?
And for turnover, New Japan would have just about, would you say they were around the second biggest company in the world? Because if you think about it, Ring of Honor was obviously very much East Coast, I think is fair.
Small
Very
potatoes.
small. TNA was, well,
TNA
they had just come down. They were on Spike. They'd just come down from that.
They were certainly the second biggest company. They were a pretty good size. They were doing good business. I think they were probably half a million.
Second, yeah, I mean,
but in terms of global positioning, no, there was no comparison.
New Japan was number two.
Because
CMLL and AAA were, they're consistently going to do good business, but I would say New Japan probably would have to be considered the number two.
At this point, there was a sizable gap between number one WWE and everybody else, right? There was no competition. Now, in the United States, TNA's fluctuation would bring them a little bit closer at times to the number, but really they were never a threat. They didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the live event business. They didn't have the pay-per-view business. They put out a good television product from time to time. They had interesting wrestlers, good wrestlers. They had a lot of interest around them. It always seemed like this dysfunctional family.
But they had TV in the UK, Kevin.
They did, which Ring of Honor did not have. Shock of all shocks. And so we knew that going in, that New Japan Pro Wrestling was a much bigger deal than Ring of Honor. And come to find out that that was the part that bothered Joe the most. Joe's perception of Ring of Honor was much bigger in his own mind than what the reality was. You see, Joe was such a salesman that he had worked himself into a shoot, as we say, brother. He believed his own BS and believed that Ring of Honor was bigger than it was. It's the only thing I could think of. Because he took offense to the fact that we told him that New Japan Pro Wrestling was a much bigger company than Ring of Honor was. And that immediately got him on the negative. How are they going to help us when you're telling me that they're bigger than Ring of Honor? Well, yeah, Joe, they are. It's facts. So it didn't stop with that conversation. And it didn't, and this conversation wasn't only contained to me and Hunter talking to Joe. This was a full court press. This was everybody, because we smartened up the boys. And Jeff Jones was a big part of this. And a lot of people that were in and around the product and the office and what have you that were on the wrestling side were on Joe and Greg constantly about this. And we wouldn't relent. And eventually, they gave in. And eventually, it led to New Japan Pro Wrestling being able to come over and appear on Ring of Honor events starting in May of 2014. But my God, did we have to pull teeth to get it there.
But to be fair, in those pulling teeth, you did that quite quickly, and that's 3 months. If
it
you,
was
you
a lot.
think about it, you chipped away at 3. In my experience for TV companies and stuff like that, it can take years, as you seeing with Warner Brothers and Discovery and all that kind of stuff. It will take absolutely ages just to get a slight turn. But what you were able to do was leverage the people with the loudest voices, and in that case, is the workers.
Yes, it did, and knowing their passion for an interest, because again, just as big as this was going to be for Ring of Honor, this was going to be even bigger for the individual wrestlers who got selected to go over and compete in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Because while everybody was happy and proud for their spot and their opportunity in Ring of Honor, what they were making would pale in comparison to what they could make if they wrestled in New Japan. Plus, not knowing what the future of Ring of Honor or their place in it would be, having New Japan experience, New Japan tours, being a part of that company boosts your resume umpteen-fold. You know what I mean? You are a bigger star because you wrestled in New Japan. And that's just the way it is. And because there's always been that perception of it. They give Meltzer such a hard time about, well, that would have been 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Because there is a perception that when you wrestle there, that it's bigger and it's more important. It's part of the mystique of New Japan, which it's hard to quantify, but it really is a huge factor in everyone's motivation, whether collectively as a company like Ring of Honor or individually as wrestlers, as announcers, to be able to get to New Japan because of what that meant for the wrestling landscape.
And also, I think the fact that there is a history with New Japan. It is a it has a bigger history than Ring of Honor, which was basically a super indie that had legs. It was a little little engine that could. It went on going, and it became bigger than the sum of its parts.
And just so everybody knows, here's how Ring of Honor started. Ring of Honor got started because Gabe Sapolsky and Rob Feinstein recorded the ECWA events. ECWA, different than Extreme Championship Wrestling. Producing and selling VHS copies and then eventually DVDs of their big show every year, the Super 8. The Super 8 tournament was widely regarded as like the greatest super indie tournament of the time. Now, APW had them and a couple of other companies had them, but ECWA started it in 97 and was, by this point now, kind of the household brand for that style. And Gabe and Rob said, what if we promoted a Super 8 every show? That's what Ring of Honor was. That's what Ring of Honor, that's how it was spawned. That's the way it was sold. That's how it was positioned. Let's bring the best talent from everywhere in the world. Let's put them in the ring up against each other, and let's have the best wrestle the best. I mean, what a business model, right?
And you know what's interesting? For me, I lived. It's hard. It was hard to live through that because obviously I'm in the UK, limited access. I was a butter boy in those days, and it's hard to get hold of.
Butter
But
boy?
butter boy, butter bing, butter boy. But I managed to. But PW, that's what Battle of Los Angeles it was and is. You know, PWG did it in a different location, and they were unforgiving about where and when they did it, how they did it. But eventually, that stuff would come available on DVD and eventually Blu-ray, and you could enjoy it. That's what Ring of Honor was like, except PWG, and if this goes out to anyone that has had to wait for events to come out with PWG, when I tell you it was easier to get hold of PWG than Ring of Honor, there'll be a lot of people sort of eye rolling, but no, for Ring of Honor you had to go to certain shows who had the license to do it, and they weren't easy to come by in the UK, and at a premium price, which is probably why cards on the table, not a massive Ring of Honor fan because I didn't like the way that they treated the British fans, among other things. I'm sure we'll get
I
into
don't
it
think that it
eventually.
was done intentionally to
To
hurt
upset me.
British. I think that it was just the partners and the companies that you could work with.
It was. I think eventually. I think it was eventually it soured, and I learned more about it. But I found it very
off-putting.
now. Yeah, and I think that they, but they've done such an incredible thing for pretty much their touch on every as a company, their touch on every promotion around the world is, I think, still felt to this day, and I think that everything that we're seeing in pro wrestling, good and bad, has really developed from that element of what Gabe put together and really crumbled on, which is why I think the New Japan influence gave it a completely different feel and a different vibe, in the fact that it just switched it. It was it felt a little bit more, which is special fair, because you still were putting on really big shows, and there were a lot of really cool matches. One of the biggest matches. I've said some horrible things about Ring of Honor. One of the best matches I've ever seen was Jay Briscoe against Adam Cole, baby. The one where I felt that Jay Briscoe became an absolute legend in my mind, because he did the full works for Adam Cole, and he really made him at Final Battle, really made, like, just incredible. What a great match. But again, you had a completely different feel to when a New Japan talent would be on the show and all these other things that were around, and that's great for the industry, and I think it's something that maybe would be beneficial for people to look back on and see how it developed.
Just so everybody knows of where we are in terms of what's going on in New Japan Pro Wrestling at this time. So in 2014, we were looking at the continuing rivalry between Okada and Tanahashi, and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, hotly contested between those two. Almost 2 years removed at this point from the Rainmaker shock. We are a couple of months away from the birth of Bullet Club, and everything starts to change and grow. And by the way, Bullet Club was really hot. I don't know if you remember
No,
this. It's true.
no, was it?
No,
Someone should write a book about it.
it's true. It was really hot, and it was super cool. Anyway, yeah. So that was just in the where everything was starting
Yeah,
to get to, right? And you had Shinsuke Nakamura, who was growing in um, presence and prominence, um, stature,
natural
mythical,
charisma.
mythical proportions of what he was becoming at this time. So you had Okada and Tanahashi. You had the Bullet Club, still, kind of the core four at this point, hadn't really gone on. New Japan had the departure of Prince Devitt. So he was the first one to grow up in the system, who then would leave for greener pastures in WWE.
And so I was at a lot of his last shows. He came out as Bane for one of the shows, and there were some policemen looking for Bane, and he then power slammed them on the stage, and one of the policemen's foot nearly bashed into my moderately sized nose.
Oh,
I managed to just about dodge getting like this boot in the face. Devitt, I remember him saying on the stage when he was saying goodbye, is I'll see you in a few years, and it has been well over 10. So as hard as it is for New Japan to have given this guy an incredible opportunity, Devitt was doing commercials out there, which wasn't normal for a non-Japanese wrestler. He was doing, I think he was like underwear modeling and stuff. That's not normal. He formed Bullet Club with Farley and Machine Gunker, the Carl Anderson, and effectively
and Tama Tonga. They were the core
Tama
four.
Tonga, yeah, and if you think about the fact that losing him, I remember at the time it felt like the end of. It hurt because this guy was coming onto the Indies at Progress and Rev Pro and absolutely smashing it, and it felt like this is the end of the world, Kevin. This is our guy. How could he leave us? Look at his abs.
It
And what the relationship
and again,
did was gave others the opportunity to go
right.
through. Yeah,
That's what always happens. And for New Japan Pro Wrestling, it was a blow because Devitt was as close to a homegrown guy as you can get. Tama did not exclusively train in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he came from the dojo. Fale was a dojo product. Carl Anderson, again, not exclusively
LA
trained.
dojo.
The LA dojo eventually to come over and wrestle in New Japan.
But didn't he take part in one of those sort of Super 8 sort of tournaments as well? And that's how he got spotted. If memory serves me, I might be
I'm
wrong.
gonna have to ask him.
Let me know. Yeah,
I will definitely ask him, and we'll probably have him on at some point, because I want to talk to him about what the feeling was. From my understanding, that Bullet Club sort of formed out of, I don't want to say a negative place, but maybe a little bit of sour grapes. These guys were not making a lot of money, or they were making decent money, but they were not being treated as well as they could have been. And they were being kind of, with the schedule not being as frequent as it became, they were brought over and, well, they're parked at the hotel for, you're going to stay over in between tours because we can't afford to fly you back and forth, right?
Yeah. And Devitt was in Japan predominantly.
Yes.
But he was able to go back and forth. Machine Gun was a very close friend with Devitt, who would come over every now and then. But what was really cool was that once they had something, New Japan went with it. So Cole was Machine Gun, and he got the gun thing with the entrance, and it added to this spectacle that didn't feel like New Japan had previously. And I think that really touched a lot of the English audiences. I think English speaking audiences, not just our fine England, good old Blighty,
It was
the
something
entire
that was
world.
relatable to that Carl Anderson became. Carl Anderson had been, of course, tag partners with Goto. They had won before it was tag league. They had won the annual tournament. Sword and Guns was their team name, I think it was.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that. Yeah,
and he had been in the turquoise trunks and was the G1 finalist in 2012. Hashtag G1 finalist 2012. Shout out, Big Chato.
got it, and he got it tattooed on him. That's how
Of
much
course
it
he
meant
did,
to him.
and
And
it.
that meant a lot to me because I went when I got New Japan World. That was one of the first things I went back and watched
You
because
went and got a tattoo,
yes, but I can't possibly show it until we get 100,000 subscribers. And
right?
no, yeah, I think that's how Tony Schiavone did it, didn't he? He got
I think so.
yeah,
But yeah, so and that was his transition out. Fale had been, um, you know, the hometown. He was a devotee of Yuji Nagata. He was close with Nagata. Always was close with Nagata, but this was kind of his transition out of Nagata's shadow. Became his own man in Bullet Club. Tama, who was still a baby in his wrestling career, this gave him prominence. This gave him the ability to be shown and featured in a group while still learning the ropes. It's one of the best things that you could do for somebody is you take somebody who is needing experience and you put them in with a collection of some more experienced guys and you let them matriculate in that regard. But again, Bullet Club's formation. So as we're cooking along now, they had just been formed what 6 months before this, and we're a couple of
yeah,
months away from being able to be seen in the United States for the first time in May of 2014. Oh my God, this was going to be such a huge deal. But we are counting down, and it's amazing to think about it. We're counting down to the final days now of Tanahashi's career as we record this. And it's kind of sad when I think about what Tanahashi means to me as an announcer, as someone who's been in the wrestling industry for 35 years, what Tanahashi means to the wrestling industry. I think what we should probably do, Joel, is end this one and we'll come back with a new episode where we're going to just count down Tanahashi. Let's focus on some of his big matches, big moments, tell the story of his career as best we can and what he means to both of us. And, so we don't get too teary eyed. We'll try to do it all in one. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like all
Well,
at once.
we're on the run up to Wrestle Kingdom, and the 4th of January. Do you know what's annoying about that? Is my daughter was born on the 3rd.
Why is that annoying?
Because it does make it very hard to fly out, but also the fact that she was actually due in mid-December.
Huh?
So I'd planned it, Kevin. I'd planned it properly. But yeah, effectively, this run up just absolutely it catches me off guard, especially with Tanahashi going and what it means. I hope we've gone through. Joe Koff said no, and eventually he said yes, and it feels like the Global Wars was probably him sort of puffing his chest out saying, "I told you," and we will go through that.
Boy,
Uh-oh.
you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, did I predict it?
Yeah. And
Yes.
so as the final episode, the final chapter of the beginnings of the relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor, and how the birth of all of this began. The success of New Japan Pro Wrestling's first foray in with the world of Ring of Honor was, to put it mildly, a huge success. As
Yes.
tickets sold incredibly fast, faster than any events in history. And we still didn't have the pay-per-view figured out right, but those numbers were huge. The merch numbers, astronomical. And the naysayer, Joe Koff, did the "see, I told you so," and we all kind of looked at him like, what? But to be fair, Joel, if you didn't know it, you had to see it. And then
Yeah.
once you saw it, it was undeniable. It was absolutely undeniable to even our biggest naysayer, Joe Koff, who then puffed out his chest and did say, "Yeah, I knew it was going to work. I knew it would work the whole time. That's why I had you guys. That's why I had you guys do it."
And you know what? You know who wouldn't do that? Tanahashi, because he is always right, and he is the chair. He's gone from the biggest star, and we can't tell you how big he was in order to get him to where he is now. But he's running it, and will hopefully cover why he's running it, and maybe the politics behind it. Because I know me and you have spoken about that a few
Right.
times. And as strong
There's
style stories go, it feels like that's a good way to maybe cap off his just incredible career.
we have to talk about Tanahashi's relationship to the product, more so outside of the ring than in, because Tanahashi nearly gave his life for the company, nearly was killed without ever becoming the star that he became. And it's a story that's known but not well publicized, so we're going to retell it here. And it was that moment in time that Tanahashi became a big star in Japan, and then eventually, but again, if he wasn't the right person to carry the company on his shoulders, the company would have wilted.
Yeah, there wasn't anyone, and they went to so many people, and Nagata, bless him, they were trying everything, but it's very hard for someone like Nagata to do
right.
what was required at that point, and that was charisma. That was
Yes.
boom,
You had
life.
Yuji Nagata, you had Manabu Nakanishi, Hiroki Goto, Togi Makabe, Shinsuke Nakamura to a lesser extent. By the way, Shinsuke Nakamura was the big deal. Before there was Okada, there was Shinsuke. You want to talk about the Rainmaker shock? The Shinsuke shock was even a shock to the boys in the locker room. So we'll talk about that as we go along.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah. And
I can
how
do one even better. Big Damo dropping Nakamura on his head at a Rev Pro show, and what that what the repercussions of that may or may not have been. Because
and I'll give you the insight as to what the feeling was, did we want to do business? We, meaning New Japan. Did they want to do business with Walter? Did they want to do business with Keith Lee? Did they want to do business with the,
Matt
guy
Riddle?
Matt Riddle? Did they want to do business with them? The answers might surprise you. But these are all the things that I'm so excited, Joel, that I can finally talk about. That and it's not going to hurt anybody. These are true stories that will only make everybody realize, it'll give people answers. Like, how come Walter didn't, why didn't they use Keith Lee? What happened with Riddle? I'll give you the stories. Okay.
We've got all of those stories and more, and it's,
I got
do you know what?
stories.
I'm so excited because me and Kevin's conversations over the years have been absolutely fantastic, and the ability for me to be able to be part of this and share it and experience them again with hopefully all of you.
And
And
how many
actually,
text
we've got a
right?
method. We've
And
we've got a method for.
how many text messages I've gotten from you over the years, just with the random thought. How come so and so wasn't a bigger star? Or what did you think about this when this happened in New Japan?
Why didn't
And
Okada main event this show? I've
right,
had a few of those.
yeah. What the world was going on? So we'll be touching all of these things. But and by the way, our theme music is awesome. I
Yes.
freaking love it.
It's
Um,
by Ben Casabianca, who weirdly I'm seeing next week. I'm having dinner with, so we've had to change when we record. But he's one of my best friends. He is like a brother. What an absolute star, Ben Casabianca. He's also in Dead Relic. He's got loads of other projects, but it's the track is called Home. Now we'll go into more details why we're choosing a track called Home, but the subtlety hammer may have hit people and wonder why. Why did you ever leave New Japan, Kevin? And we've got the title Home. So we'll go over it in detail, but I think we may it
it
may.
brought tears. It gave me goosebumps and it brought tears to my eyes when I heard that song because of what that represents
Yeah.
and where we all are in our lives. But this is an amazing journey, and this is just the first one.
This is number
So
one, and but that doesn't mean people can't get in touch. We are on strongstylestories@gmail.com. Please, anything you want to ask, I'm there, happy to do. And we did actually get our first email, Kevin.
did
We got an email. So this came from a gentleman called Sean Coulthard from Greenwich, and he's asked when will Ring of Honor be available on UK TV?
I hate you, and that's a fake email. And
How dare you?
how dare you, Michael Cole's real name? How dare you? And how double dare
I've
you?
had that in the chamber for ages. I'm so happy I got it out.
What a jerk.
Yeah, that's
Um,
me. I'm Jolie Jerk apparently, but
yes.
we've
Yeah,
gone.
I want to hear from the fans, email questions. Because again, a lot of these questions will be things that we'll touch on. So um, give me your thoughts, folks, and tell me what you want to know, and we'll cover it. We'll do an episode all based around your question if we can. And all throughout social media, by the way, thanks to everybody who's checking this out on YouTube. Make sure you click the like, thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, and make sure you subscribe. If you want to hit that notification bell, you'll know when new episodes of Strong Style Stories with Kevin Kelly will be available for you here on the YouTube. But of course, our podcast home, we couldn't thank everybody enough for that, and we hope you folks all enjoy it. We thank you for making us part of your podcast listening day.
It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you, Kevin. Until next time, where we will be going into Tanahashi. We'll be going into all sorts of detail because the man needs celebrating. And just to reiterate, we are at YouTube. We want to create a bit of a community. Eventually, once we get some reps in, hopefully we'll be able to do some subscriber exclusive content where we can talk about more about stories of Tanahashi. We want to review. I don't think you've ever really reviewed a Wrestle Kingdom. Have you, Kevin?
No,
I know
never.
you've called them, but you did previews for friends of the podcast. Oh, it's friends of mine, I guess. Super J Cast, and even then Purocast before that.
Friends too. How dare you? We
Well, no,
will.
I'll show you the messages. Um,
Oh, whoops.
no,
I think our subscriber exclusive content for YouTube it'll take some time, but again, we can always. Can you imagine going through and doing a watch along with G1 Climax Finals matches,
yeah,
or Dominion main events, or AJ Styles matches, um, whatever you might want to see, we could do watch alongs for subscribers, and it'll
Yeah.
be exciting. I would love to do that.
I tell you what, the one that I have, I think people will really get a kick out of that. I don't think works unless you do as a watch along, is the Shibata versus Okada main event
Oh,
where my favorite match of all time, and that feels very filthy saying it, but it tells you an entire story about one wrestler of Katsuri Shibata, who's my favorite wrestler of that time. And my God, what a time! And Kevin was there, and not only was he there, it happened about what 3 feet away from you. Like, it was there. So if you
his life force was leaving his body as Don Callis and I went through the curtain, and we didn't know whether or not it was real or not until we knew it was real. And it was one of the scariest things that I've ever experienced in my life. And I was there for Owen Hart's death. So I've experienced this before. I didn't realize how serious it was until it was laying at my feet.
And I,
Um,
watching it, I didn't know how serious it was, and that should tell you just how strong and crazy Shibata still is, to be fair. And I think it's an important thing for us to be able to go through, but also, it will highlight just how much both guys gave to this. And I look forward to sort of talking and giving people an insight that they wouldn't have had before. I think probably some plugs at the end where please visit Kevin Kelly's shop on Pro Wrestling Tees, because some of those shirts are absolutely fantastic. And there is even one of a dear friend of ours, Mr. Boy Simmons, the Pillar.
yeah.
He is on there, so please do go and support. We are looking at
Plus, we're
getting.
gonna put new designs up that are exclusively for Strong Style Stories, including our super cool logo and our alternate logo that was done by Rich Baker. You'll be able to get that exclusively on my Pro Wrestling Tees store. So prowrestlingtees.com/Kevin Kelly.
Again, strongselfstories@gmail.com. I have been Joel, but really, this is all about Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly, sayonara, my friend.
Matane!
Peace.